So welcome to Satsang. Somehow I'm afraid time did something strange this morning. But we have a very powerful morning for everybody because I've selected a passage from I Am That. And I have the idea we'll go through in some detail this passage because it covers all the things we've been talking about. So where's Bruno's not online. Radha's not online. Bruno's not online.
I see Bruno is here, but without video.
Okay. Well, I'd rather he has his video on. Anyway, let's begin with sitting together quietly. And as you go inside, I would ask you to bring your attention to whatever is strongest. Can be a thought, a feeling, body sensation, or indeed it may just be quiet. So bring your attention to whatever is the strongest. And just witness, just be the witness, just watch, but don't try to change anything. And now look again and see what is the strongest in this moment and be the witness. Just watch. Don't try to change anything. And now when you look inside, allow yourself to go deeper, fall down deeper inside. Okay, so when you're ready, you can come back, open your eyes and come back in the room. And maybe somebody has something interesting to tell us, to share with us. Perhaps you can see some difference between Saturday morning and Monday morning. I think Govinda's going to share with us something.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, very loud. Yeah, very loud. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I go back a bit. Well, I was going just into a very vast space, very vast, and there was no world. There was not really anything anymore. I could still sense that there are emotions and thoughts, but the vast space was very strong, and the emotions and thoughts weren't so big compared to the space.
Right, right. Well, that's very good, very good. So they were somehow in the background, and they didn't really disturb this space, yeah?
No.
And was that immediately the first time, or did it take some time before you got into that space?
It was pretty much immediate.
Right, right. Excellent, excellent. Did anybody else come very quickly into this empty space?
Atma waved her hand.
Yeah, for me, this morning was something that I experienced another time too. There is this question when I came to myself, or to this watching inside of me, this point where nothing outside is, only inside. And there is this moment when I look at this, then I can't grab it, but I want to. It's a point I think I don't take it. Ich habe immer das Gefühl, Rada, ich hoffe, du kannst übersetzen.
Yeah.
Immer dann, wenn ich denke, jetzt bin ich da, von da aus, wo ich schaue, dann kann ich es nicht fassen.
Always when I'm thinking I'm there,
von wo ich schaue.
From where I'm looking, I can't grab it.
Und
what do you mean grab it? What do you mean grab it? What do you want to grab?
Yeah, this question, who am I, or what am I? What is this this point where all begins? And then this moment, I thought, now I'm there, but I know there's nothing, but this nothing is so weary. It's then I think, oh no, it's not. I want to share it because it happens sometimes. And when I came, I had this feeling I can't stay there. I don't know how to say.
You know what? I get this impression of you being a dog and it's chasing its tail, you know, and it thinks this tail is somehow separate. So it goes faster and faster trying to grab the tail, not realizing that the tail is actually part of the dog, you know?
Yeah.
So you don't have to grab it. You don't have to grab it. I mean, when you come to this space, this is you. This is your essence. There's nothing to grab. And it sounds a bit like you're kind of holding on to some, I don't know, some idea you might have about it. That, you know, the mind has somehow got to understand this, or the mind has got to see this, or something like this. But it's not like that. The mind never can understand the space.
Yeah, but all people are telling about this vastness and the space and this, and all this is experienced before this point, and at this point there's nothing, but there's also no space and no bliss or nothing, and it's, I think, oh, I've fallen out of it. It's difficult. I know you say it's my my mind who wants to grab it and hold it, and then it can't. But also I want to say, yes, I was there. I want to say that.
Right. Well, maybe, I don't know, it's hard to, I mean, very hard to really know what you mean by what words you use. You know, we're in a realm where, you know, it's not so simple to find the word to really explain what happens. Yeah, what you mean and what I understand you to mean is like, yeah, it's not so easy.
Mm.
But yeah, I can't really comment more.
Thank you.
But I'm sure you're doing okay.
Thank you.
Okay, somebody else like to share? Somebody came.
Gloria.
Okay.
You have to unmute.
Talking to Gloria is here again, strikes again. I would say to the lady who just talked, this going into this nothing, going, when I experienced this, like it felt like I was flowing, you know, the energy of love, of light was flowing into me. And then I realized that I am that energy. I'm one with the source. And then it flows, and it doesn't flow anywhere. It just flows into nothing. You know, we don't have to go anywhere. We're there already. We just have to let it be. You know, there's nowhere to go. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. This is very clear. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
And I feel this energy flow to be part of it. You know, that I'm so part of the energy flow. Well, I am the source.
Right.
Mm.
As Maharaj says, you know, I am that.
Yeah.
Did you also experience that this morning?
Me, yes.
Yes.
Totally. I was really, I really felt as if I was everything. You know, that I'm. You know, I just am, just being. You know, just.
Right. Right. Good.
No expectations of, you know, total bliss. You know, just thinking, wow, this is great. I am.
Right. We'll have to collect a petition, you know, to thank the virus, I think.
I am. I'm thinking about that actually. I think that's a great idea. Because
a lot of people find it very negative.
Yeah.
Very negative, you know. The
Yeah.
news media are always, you know, how many more have died. You know, it's all very terrible. The economy is awful, and blah blah blah. But actually, we could make a petition in the other direction.
Yeah, you should always look on the bright side of life. and most definitely, Corona has had a very good bright side, because I think it brought a lot of people back to themselves.
Right.
It certainly did the kick with me. You know, just realizing that I am alone on this planet, and I'm just responsible for myself and my thoughts. I'm the boss of my thoughts, and my thoughts determine my life. You know, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been very fun with you. And I just wanted to add one thing, talking versus Zoom versus live retreats. I find I haven't had a live retreat, but I find this Zoom is so much more personal, you know, because when you look into the camera, you're looking into my eyes, you know, and every participant, you're looking into their eyes quite personally, you know. It's in a live seminar, this wouldn't be happening. You know, you're looking around the room everywhere, and, you know. So it's just a thought on that, because I think it's really, as you said yesterday, it's very intimate, because it's almost like a one-to-one.
Right. Yeah. I think the effect, we can talk about this maybe in the afternoon today before we finish, but seems to me that in a different way to a live retreat where we all sit in the same room, this has also a very strong energy transmission effect. We can talk about it later, maybe. Okay. Anybody else like to share from our meditation?
Saga.
No. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I think I have a bit the similar situation as Atma said. There's a quietness inside and a relaxed position, but still there's the mind who wants to grab it or wants to hold on to it somehow. Yeah? Feels still not like really quiet.
Okay. Well, I mean, from the way you're talking about it, it's more clear probably that the mind is still got it, got you, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it seems
okay.
very subtle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, maybe one more person, and then we'll move on.
We have Ole.
Yeah, I wanted to share that the experience of the meditation and experiencing right now, it's not different, it's the same. It's like it doesn't stop after meditation, it just keeps going deeper and more quiet. Even though we're talking and sort of being more active, it's still this silence or quietude being expressed just in a different way, but still there.
Good. Yeah. Well, we've talked before that you've been a sincere meditator for many, many years, and so this has brought you a huge benefit because you have very quiet mind, and so you can come in this space and hold the space. So that's very good, beautiful. And
it's also, it feels so beautiful to, after meditating, not having to go back to sort of some work or some other kind of interaction, but just sort of falling into the energy field of the satsang and the support.
Yeah. This is where, of course, you come to some kind of situation where one might make some decision and change one's outer life, because what you've just said, and I remember what you were saying, I think, I don't know, anyway, you were saying earlier about your grandfather who was a farmer and was always very quiet, and you were very touched being with him in his last time. And so, it's not a practice, it's not a spiritual practice, but at a certain point, we may find that actually our outer world doesn't really support anymore the inner world. And we find that, we're not really satisfied with that. So we make a change, we change something. So, I mean, we're allowed to live our life as we like, and we can change something.
It also reminds me, yesterday my grandmother was here to celebrate my dad's birthday, and it's actually very warming in some way, because she has really changed, even though she's old, because she used to be very argumentative and very she was a politician and like very much in her mind, and kind of a tough woman, or like very not so much in touch with her feelings. But now she at some point she probably let go of something, and now she's much more joyful and she's joking all the time, and we're just laughing a lot. So it's a very beautiful change to see, and I really didn't expect it to happen to her at all, and not at such an advanced age.
All right. Yeah, I mean, right now I'm thinking about somebody who's become a bit of a hero to me, and that's this Microsoft guy whose name now doesn't come to me. What's his name?
Bill Gates.
Who?
Gates?
Bill Gates. Yeah, Bill Gates. I was You know, because he was starting Microsoft when he was, I don't know, 16 or something. I mean, he was a kind of computer genius just when computers were becoming personal, you know, and he rode the wave of the enormous expansion of personal computers, and built up an enormous company, one of the biggest tech companies in the world. And out of all that, he became immensely rich. And he had married a woman who is also extremely intelligent, and she was somebody who came to work at Microsoft, and you know, as a woman, she was actually better than most of the men. And so Bill Gates and this woman somehow naturally found each other. And then they had some children, and so this woman became a mummy at home. And then it didn't work out so well because, well, for whatever reasons, I don't know. And so finally, Bill basically decided he would change his life. And he made an enormous change because gradually he gave up driving this company and he started something completely different, which was this foundation to, well, I think initially it was to do more with health. And now, you know, it's expanded into health in a wider sense. Yeah, I think talking about he's done this design for a nuclear power station, which could provide humanity with an alternative energy source, so we weren't polluting the planet and causing global warming. So if this would take off gradually, this is an enormous contribution that will come from Bill Gates. Enormous contribution. So he made a shift, an enormous shift in his life. He had already strong influences from his mother. His mother had been somebody also who's very involved with helping people. So he'd had some strong influences in his younger life. And yeah, he made an enormous change in his life. There's nothing to stop us doing that. And maybe at some point in the inner journey, it's even kind of necessary to do that in order to be able to really embrace your own being.
Yeah, these changes, they happen naturally when you stop resisting them. I think it's not part of like the different roles we play throughout life. And yeah, I mean, if you let them happen, they will happen to us.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have to somehow get a sense of the enormous conditioning that has happened to us from our family, from the culture, you know, from the whole organization of society. And much of those things we don't even question. You know? So I don't know, it's hard to quite understand how it all works, you know, because you know, there was a moment in the 60s and 70s where young people were driven to absolutely not accept the way of the society, the way of their parents, the generation, if you like. There was not a revolution. In France, there was some kind of revolutionary stuff. But in America, for example, it wasn't really as a revolution. It was, in that sense, it was a kind of cultural revolution. And younger people started to demand a different kind of lifestyle. And that went on then through the 70s and started to kind of peter out, I think, in the 80s. And now the forces in the society have taken over again. But individuals within that, of course, have made different decisions. I mean, we ourselves here in Open Sky House, we've been a group of 16 to 20 people for the last 16 years. People have come to live here for some time and then they've left, and other people have come. But there's been a core of people choosing to live together now for a very long time, actually. And something is created here. It's an alternative, not for everybody, of course. But this is could be also a model for an alternative way that society can organize itself.
Something that struck me yesterday when Bruno was talking was the act of falling, and that we are always falling and never arriving. I think no one's really arriving anywhere, and it's about being able to let go and enjoy this process of falling. And, yeah, I mean, that can be very difficult because we want to arrive somewhere. But what is even better is is this process of falling, because then you can always be ready for that change and just, yeah, I mean, surrender to the flow of life, as we talked about yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thank you for those sharings. And so I have chosen quite a big chunk of Maharaj's teachings from I Am That. I think it will kind of pull everything together, so we can go through this slowly. And remember that somehow the way he's speaking is not quite easy for our modern idea of English, I think. Anyway, keep the I am in the focus of awareness. Remember that you are. Watch yourself ceaselessly, and the unconscious will flow into the conscious without any special effort on your part. Right. So he's very strongly suggesting that, you know, at a certain level, and I think everybody in this retreat has this level, where we have a background of meditation, so that we've done maybe years of work, which has given us a quiet mind, or relatively quiet mind. Not all the time. As we talked yesterday, there can be kind of storms, energetic storms that show up, and we get lost in those storms. But as far as I can feel, everybody in this retreat has the benefit of meditation, and we have the benefit of a basically quiet mind. So what Maharaj is saying to those people, you don't really need any spiritual practice. There's not really something to do except to watch, to be the watcher, to be the witness. And this is akin to sitting on the hill and just looking out over the valley and watching whatever is happening. See, without making a judgment about it, not having to do something about it, just being completely receptive as the watcher, the witness. And what he's saying is that when you do this ceaselessly, the unconscious will flow into the conscious without any special effort on your part. So you don't have to do something, right? It's not a doing, it's just watching. You can call that a doing if you want to, you can call that a practice if you want to, but in a simple sense, it's just being aware. And this is something that in itself is not so easy. You know, we're not so familiar with watching, constantly watching, And we also have the tendency that when we watch, we want to change something. We want to push it in some direction we think is better. You see, so it's very neutral, very neutral. Wrong desires and fears, false ideas, social inhibitions are blocking and preventing the free interplay of the unconscious with the conscious. Once free to mingle, the two become one, and the one becomes the all. Okay? So what we're trying to deal with is all this old stuff, basically. All our conditioned stuff is constantly is pulling us back into the unconscious. And the witness is opening us up to the conscious, you could say. What I'm saying, so yeah. And he's also saying that once free to mingle, the two become one, and the one becomes then all. So this witness, then at some point, this witness dissolves actually by itself. You don't have to do anything. It just suddenly happens. It's like the, you could say, like the wall between your mind and that is gradually getting thinner and thinner in this process of watching, where more and more of the unconscious is merging with the conscious. And then in one moment, it's like, poof, it bursts through the wall. There's no wall anymore. The wall is, if you like, melted away. You don't do that. It just happens. The witness, of course, is still happening in the mind. The mind is the witness. And you have to train the mind to be this neutral witness. And also, it's not so easy to do it constantly. Often we need to, sit in the garden, sit in the house in a particular place. It's almost like a meditation. And if we're too much busy in the outer world, we can't easily bring our witness. Our witness doesn't work when we're very much caught up on the outside. So some kind of withdrawal is needed from the busy outside world. That's why we can say that this virus is a gift to everybody, because we've been forced to stay more with ourselves. The person merges in the witness in awareness, awareness in pure being. Person merges in the witness in awareness, the awareness in pure being. So if you like, this is steps. Yet identity is not lost, only its limitations are lost. It is transfigured and becomes the real self, the Sat Guru, the eternal friend and guide. So this is the movement. It's taking us to our eternal friend, our essence, the self. That's where we want to go. Yeah, that's the whole point of everything. We want to come to maintain our daily life as the essence. And at the level which everybody in this retreat seems to be, the only last thing, if you want, you can do, but it's not really a doing, so it's a sort of subtle use of word, is the witness. The key, being aware, watching. And in this watching, you find that gradually the all the stuff from the past starts to become less strong, starts to fade away by itself, you know, beautiful by itself. You don't have to do something, it's just happening by itself. What we have to do is to remember to watch, remember to be the witness, because it's very easy to completely forget about it. And we were talking about this. We were talking about this where Jean had got a friend visiting her in Ramana Ashram. And this friend arrived, and then she realized that she got kind of caught up with this friend. And then she lost the space she had become familiar with. And this is what happens, yeah, also in our life, that we get involved with somebody, and getting involved with somebody very often keeps us so busy on the outside that we lose being the witness. So various people sneak up to my computer and move me around. So, for example, I've been very impressed in Ramana Ashram. You know, I've been visiting this ashram for 20 years. In January every year, I go to India. We have a retreat, and of course, I pay my respects to Ramana Maharshi, and I go to his samadhi, walk around, and in front of his samadhi, there's a big hall divided into men on one side and women on the other side. And there are people who've chosen to come to India, come to that town, and come to that ashram, who spend many hours every day sitting in that hall on rather hard floor. And some of them I meet every year in January. So they kind of seems like they're still there. You know, they were there last year and now they're still here again this year. So they've probably been sitting in there the whole year. And I remember one young Russian woman who I met many years ago there now. And she's been sitting there for years. I don't know how many, 5 or 6 years she's been sitting there on this hard floor. And sometimes if I get a chance, I try to have a bit of a chat with her to see if she's got any benefit from sitting so long. And actually she did. She got enormous benefit. And she became a kind of, how can I say, spiritual monster. She really, really had come deep inside herself. And very young woman. I didn't see her now for the last 2 years, so I think something may have happened. She may have gone back to Russia. I don't know what happened to her. So this is an enormous investment if you really want to be free. No external activity can reach the inner self. Worship and prayers remain on the surface only. To go deeper, meditation is essential. The striving to go beyond the states of sleep, dream, and waking. In the beginning, the attempts are irregular. Then they recur more often, become regular, and then continuous and intense until all obstacles are conquered. No external activity can reach the inner self. Worship and prayers remain on the surface only. To go deeper, meditation is essential. The striving to go beyond the states of sleep, dream, and waking. In the beginning, the attempts are irregular. Then they occur more often, become regular, then continuous and intense until all obstacles are conquered. So this is takes time, yeah, it can take years. And this is the witnessing part, because without some benefit from meditation, without having a quiet mind, then it's very, very difficult to get any benefit out of witnessing. So, as he says, the meditation is essential. I mean, it's a little bit surprising that he says this, because there is an idea that people like Maharaj, Ramana Maharshi, Papaji were saying, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. You don't need any practice, right? So this seems to be somewhat against that notion. And it was interesting, as you know, I don't know what you know about Lucknow and Papaji, but he attracted people from all around the world to his meetings in Lucknow. And I was very fortunate to spend 5 years there. I kind of stumbled on this situation. I couldn't leave, and well, I didn't want to leave. And it was very interesting, because the vast majority of people that came to him had also spent many years with other teachers and masters, and had done all kinds of spiritual practices, in fact. So although Papaji was saying, you don't need to do any practices, he never gave anybody any practices. He didn't give you a mantra. But people who came there had already done a lot of that, most of the people. Sometimes very innocent people came. I gave you the story of this sailmaker from Australia, from Fremantle, who was completely innocent. So somehow innocent people came, but majority were kind of serious, mature, spiritual, hardworking people. In my case, I'd spent 15 years being involved with Osho Rajneesh, and long periods I'd spent in his ashram. And in those times, I spent many days, many hours every day meditating, doing different meditations that were offered in the ashram. So, so when I finally made it to Papaji, not really quite completely realizing that, I was kind of ripe, if you like. And what I can feel with everybody who's come into this retreat, you've all done lots of this work. So you're all ripe, actually. So when you're so ripe, the only thing I could advise, and he's also advising, is to self-aware, the witnessing. To go beyond the mind, you must be silent and quiet. Peace and silence. Silence and peace. This is the way beyond. Stop asking questions. This is also an interesting thing that, at a certain level of understanding, questions are not really interesting anymore. It's like questions just drop away. And when you're very, very new, of course, you have many, many questions. And of course, it's good then to ask all your questions. And it's always nice for me to have a kind of young blood in a retreat where somebody, asks many, many questions, because then I have a chance to talk about many things. But with you kind of mature guys, then it's different. Not being so many questions, and a lot of things we haven't talked about, but actually they're not so important. Know the world as your own creation and be free. The memory of the past unfulfilled desires traps energy which manifests itself as a person. When its charge gets exhausted, the person dies. Unfulfilled desires are carried over into the next birth. Self-identification with the body creates ever fresh desires, and there is no end to them unless this mechanism of bondage is clearly seen. It is clarity that is liberating, for you cannot abandon desire unless its causes and effects are clearly seen. So what I would say is that, well, actually the title of today's meeting, Look Honestly How You Avoid Yourself. This is what I'm supposed to be speaking about today. And of course, this is, how can I say, this is the other side of this witnessing. Because we tend to avoid really seeing ourselves. And this is a bit tricky because, you know, when we were young, we were constantly judged. You know, daddy judged us, mummy judged us, other kind of people, maybe the school teacher judged us. And so we constantly were given the message that we weren't good enough or we weren't right. Something was wrong with us, basically. There aren't so many human beings who were, as they were growing up, were given the message that you're okay. You're okay. And I can see now I've got 2 little children in my life. This is not always easy. So I have a sort of policy in the morning after the girls have had a bit of breakfast that I don't engage so much with them. I just let them run around in the apartment. And sometimes it's not so easy for me not to engage with them because I know they're making a hell of a mess. So one of their favorite games is to go into the bathroom and squeeze the tubes, you know, like the toothpaste. The other morning, for example, one of them had squeezed the toothpaste all over the hand basin. Yeah. So, you know, there's a natural kind of feeling as a mature adult that you have to say, I should say, you know, that's not a good idea. You're not supposed to squeeze the toothpaste. You know, that's wrong, wrong. We don't squeeze the toothpaste and put it all over the basin. Yeah. But of course, from a kid's point of view, they probably had a lot of fun squeezing that stuff out of the tube and putting it wherever they put it, you know. So, well, anyway, I mean, I see sometimes this is not really so easy as a parent. I mean, of course, I draw the line at things I think are kind of dangerous or could hurt them. But, you know, very often they completely trash the bathroom in the morning. They get water gets everywhere. They soak the towels. They're like sodden piles of, you know, fabric on the floor. And as I say, they love squeezing out different tubes. But when I hear the joy that goes on, you know, they get really excited doing this. They really have a good time. So who is it for who is it for me to come and say that's not right, you know, that's not okay? So I'm trying to be a very liberating kind of parent and not stepping in and saying, you know, that's not okay. But probably for many parents, they're not as easygoing as I am. And, you know, many parents naturally have ideas that, you know, the toothpaste should go on the toothbrush and shouldn't be squirted out all over the hand basin, yeah, which is all very reasonable, you know, maybe it's very reasonable, and, you know, maybe children need to be taught all those kind of things, but there's always the danger that the kid is getting another message, which is, I'm not okay. I'm not okay because I squeezed the toothpaste all over the basin, yeah. And this builds up. year by year by year by year. By the time we get to an adult, then we're maybe very divided against ourselves. And this is a kind of enormous tragedy for human beings, it seems to me. So this witnessing is a very powerful process because there's a lot of bullshit that we got in our lives, which we have to give time for it to disappear, for the unconscious to become conscious. True awareness is a state of pure witnessing, without the least attempt to do anything about the event witnessed. You watch all, unconcerned, in the full light of clarity. It may seem to be an attitude of cold aloofness, but is not really so. Okay. So, well, I've been talking about that. So even this meditation we did this morning, I was suggesting that you watch whatever is the strongest thing, but you don't try to change it. And we try to change stuff because we're so much conditioned. We maybe have been told, it's not good to have thoughts. So when we see that the strongest thing is thoughts, then we start to try to stop the thoughts because we want to be quiet. We know spiritually that you should be silent. There shouldn't be lots of thoughts. But if you've got lots of thoughts, then the witnessing is suggesting you just accept at that moment you've got a lot of thoughts for whatever reason. It changes. Consciousness is power. Be aware of what needs to be done, and it will be done. Only keep alert and quiet. Once you reach your destination and know your real nature, your existence becomes a blessing to all. You may not know how will the world know, yet the help radiates. Yeah. So this is actually very interesting because when we when we really become free, when the unconscious, all this unconscious stuff merges in and becomes conscious, then it actually releases enormous power. I remember when I first came to Lucknow to Papaji's meetings, I met some people there, some of his disciples there, and I was amazed by the energy that they expressed in different ways. Wow, really like so much energy coming through some of these people, yeah. Nothing like, oh, hello, nice to meet you. Not this kind of stuff at all. It was like, and this is power. So as you clean up the system, there's a power of energy released. Every human being has a constant movement of energy. The energy of existence, which we are part of, is coming in to our particular system. And if we've got all kinds of stuff, then you can see it as if we're blocking the flow of this energy. I mean, as an example, we may, some of us read about Michelangelo or Picasso, for example, here's maybe two good examples of people who became great artists who had enormous energy. Enormous energy. I mean, just look at what Michelangelo achieved in his lifetime. When he was an old man, he painted this enormous ceiling in the Sistine Chapel. And if you read about it, you find out that he was high up on a scaffold, and he had to lie on, I think he had to lie on his back and paint, the ceiling above him. So this is enormously tough job, actually. Enormously tough job. And if you read about his life, you get the feeling of this man with enormous energy. And of course, Picasso was the same. If you read about his life, he was creating so many paintings. I mean, he was like a never ending flow of creativity. So where does this energy come from? I mean, even when he was an old man, in the last years of his life, he produced, hundreds of paintings. So I would suggest that this power comes naturally when we clean ourselves up. And this is very beautiful. This is very beautiful to live with this powerful energy pulsating through, you see. Well, that's rather a lot. I mean, maybe somebody would like to ask about something. Maybe something was touching you. I hope that it made this thing about witnessing very, very clear. If somebody's not really clear about it, we should talk more about it.
Vimal.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, well, when you talk, when I read something or when I listen to satsang, the mind creates the idea that there is an ultimate state that needs to be achieved, where all this is true. It's beautiful, you're powerful, and all that. And the idea that there is something to be achieved, that there is one big step that is going to happen, is still there with me. Sometimes I can observe that. But I have to say, the way itself, the process, is becoming more and more enjoyable and joyful. And so the process itself is just, I don't know, it's the nice thing of that.
Yeah, because I mean, for our whole life, some people have some idea about their life, that they have a goal, when I'm 75, I'll be the president of a big company and I'll be living in a huge mansion and blah, blah, blah. They have sort of life goals, yeah. But actually the journey of life is now, yeah, in every moment. And I would suggest the spiritual life is also like that. So we don't know where we come, how far we come. Yeah?
It feels to me like peeling an onion, layer by layer. And the latest, I had a talk with Indira, and she pointed me to a numbness, and I started observing that. and I can see a lot of stuff stuck in layers that creates the numbness just to be able not to feel what I actually feel. So it is
Right.
something protecting me from whatever happened in childhood or whatever. But there is it's such a thick layer, so many stuff creating this numbness and protecting this numbness. It's crazy.
Right. Right. And this is why enormous honesty is needed. You know? Not, of course, honesty in the way that you're going to steal something. I don't mean like that. But, you know, with ourselves, to be really honest, to see what you've just said, for example, that it could well be that due to certain experiences when you were younger, there is an area which is kind of, it's got a sign on the door, you know, no entry, and a secret compartment. Don't go there, you know. And then we avoid that. We pretend it's not there, you know. So, I mean, this is not so easy, because if there is in the past something particularly strong, to release it, to bring light to it, can be painful, actually, can be very painful. So in our community over the years, we've had several women, for example, who were abused when they were very small, sexually abused. And some of them didn't know about it. They didn't have any connection to that sexual abuse. So somehow they had, how can I say, they had avoided recognizing that part. Yeah. And then something happened in our community, because sometimes, you know, we, for example, with massage, I remember with one woman, there was, we had a massage afternoon or something, and I could feel with that particular woman that probably she wouldn't be open to have a man massage her. So I arranged for a woman to massage her. But even that was too much for her. When we got to the sharing, that was also too much. And so there was a very clear sense that, you know, there is some kind of abuse inside, which maybe she's not really aware of. She wasn't aware of it. And so, yeah. Who is this little boy? Is this a joke from Arjuna, or the guy with the red hat? He looks a bit young for this retreat. Is that Arjuna playing around?
Yes.
Where is that? Yes, it's Arjuna. Okay, that's rather cute. Yeah, yeah. Definitely more attractive than Arjuna, anyway. Looks like a little spaceman or something. Maybe that's Arjuna when he was young, you know. And, you know, Vimal, you're about to come and live in our community, and, you know, you've been gradually moving towards that over the last time, maybe six months or a year. And, you know, you exhibited along the way a lot of honesty, actually, to look. You're a very kind of softly spoken character, and you've had, in fact, some strong things happen because you were, you know, growing up in actually a very different culture from Germany, and in a strong kind of family situation. And probably there is some repressed things which basically are painful things. Very often we repress things which are going to be painful or are painful. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, if we really want to be free, we have to open up those rooms where it says no entry. You see, we have to be ready to deal with things that are painful. For example, Radha was sharing yesterday that some of her things, yeah. So Radha is a person who's had a lot of big openings where she giggles, you know, for weeks on end. But she's also had periods where she's got in contact with some very tragic things that happened when she was a little girl. You know, she told us how, for example, and I think she doesn't mind me telling you this, when she was young, there was a lot of stress around her, whatever was causing that, so that she used to get kind of panic attacks as a little girl and would stop breathing, and they would have to rush her to the hospital. This would happen kind of a bit regularly. So something like that is definitely not nice to deal with. And what I've witnessed in our community is that sometimes things come up which are painful, and people avoid those painful things, and finally they leave the community. They'd rather leave the community than do the necessary looking. You see, you can completely avoid it, of course. You don't have to look. Most of humanity are never looking at all that stuff. So you can just join in and run away from all those things. But if you want to become free, you can't run away. You can't be free and have, you know, 2 or 3 rooms saying no entry, you know, too painful to enter. That's not going to allow you to ever become free. So to become really free requires a tremendous understanding and an ability to be going into pain. I mean, we have one of our very strong conditionings, of course, is that we always want it to be nice. We definitely are not wanting it to be painful. But unfortunately, for many people, there is something from the past which causes pain, has to be looked at. So witnessing is not always comfortable.
I must say I love talking to you because I'm past the excitement of having a teacher and, you know, a father figure or whatever. Now when you talk to me, you answer my question or comment. At some point it feels like an energy connection, which I don't know, feels, I cannot describe it. I think just helps, you know. It really helps in a way.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest aspects, actually, which is not easy to talk about. It's not going to be so easy. If I now say to you, well, of course, Bimal, I know you completely love me, you know. So that's it makes us a bit shy, you know, especially if we're men, you know, that we love each other. I mean, I used to love Papaji to bits, you know. I mean, I can't even talk about the kind of love I felt for him. And yeah, I was inside this enormous bubble of love to the extent that I didn't feel like leaving at all. I stayed for years, you know. I didn't really need to stay for years because it happened very quickly when I first arrived there. But then I stayed for many more years, and I couldn't see anywhere to go because I was living day by day so beautifully. There seemed no sense to go anywhere. So I didn't go. I mean, that was my response. Other people had different response. You know, we published this book, Papaji Amazing Grace. This was actually our first book from Open Sky Press about, I don't know, 12 years ago, 15 years ago now. And in this book, it's about 12 or 15 of the people that came to Papaji. and they had all had some large opening. You can say they all became enlightened, if you want. So they had a kind of enlightenment moment with Papaji. And so at some point, I decided to interview these people and get their life story and get them to talk about their relationship with Papaji. So this book is very beautiful because almost, well, everybody, I would say, everybody, of course, in the interview expressed tremendous love, devotion towards Papaji. And they were full of gratitude, in some of them enormous gratitude towards Papaji, what had happened for them, you know. And so this is a very interesting book because it outlines the relationship between the disciple and the master, or the student and the teacher. And we're not so familiar with that relationship here in the West. But actually, it's a very important relationship. And you can feel in this 5-year diary that I've been, reading from Jean Dunn. She had that very strong love connection to Maharaj, completely clear. And actually, I could read one other thing. You know, I was mentioning about the last evening before he left his body. Let me just go, if I can find that. Okay. So actually it was in the morning meeting. So on his final day, so he left his body that night, in the morning meeting at 10 o'clock, Maharaji said about this woman, Jean Dunn, yeah, she has developed such a great faith that any article in association with Maharaj is accepted by her with great devotion. And then he goes on, because of her great love of Guru, he's not taking it personally, of Guru, the gods will rush to do pranams to her. He said to me, there have been so many also-rans. Why are you the winning horse in this spirituality? By also-rans, he means the many people that came to the meeting but didn't stay very long, or he asked them to go, you know. He calls these also-rans, people who are kind of interested but are not going to come to the end of the race. And then he says, the strength of your faith, you see, the strength of your faith. And then she says, I was so stunned that my mind simply quit working. You see? And this aspect of the whole thing is not so easy to talk about, you know, because as you were just saying, there's a very strong energetic part which we can't easily really talk about. So would anybody else like to comment on what I was reading just now? Anybody get touched from that?
Govinda.
Okay.
We can't hear you, Govinda. We can't hear you now.
Hello?
Yes, now we hear you. Now we hear you.
I come closer. Yeah, it's very touching what you said. And I think for myself, this in the surrender, a lot of ego parts which are hidden, which are hiding, are being seen, yeah, being exposed, and I think this is very helpful and very painful at the same time, yeah? But yeah, that was, yeah, I feel there was a big benefit in this.
Maybe you go a little bit away because you're quite loud now. Well, you see this. You see what about pain? You know, let's maybe talk a bit about pain, because you know, if I don't know, if you're playing around, walking around, and suddenly you hit your leg, you hit your knee onto something, yeah, strongly, then what happens? You get pain, right? You get oh, and of course we don't want to get this pain, you know. But then maybe you have to do something about it, because the pain is continuing. Maybe it continues for 2 days. And then you think to yourself, well, maybe I've really damaged my knee. You know, I better go and get an X-ray or go and get a doctor to look at my knee, because maybe it's not really okay just to leave it. Yeah. So if you look at that pain that you get, you can say that, okay, well, it's not nice to have pain, but this pain is actually telling me something, you see. So for example, in my own personal case, in January in India and February in India, for 2 months, I had intense pain in my legs. And I consulted some massage therapists, and I had many massages. And I was asking these people, well, I don't know, you know, is it really my muscles that's causing this pain? Or do I really need to do a hip operation? Because doctors had told me before, you know, you need to do a hip operation. But anyway, I had a lot of pain, and the pain was every day, every day, every day. And I had massages, a lot of massages, because I couldn't stand the pain, basically. And the massages kind of helped, yeah, but not really, because the next day I would have pain again. So then basically, you know, it took me some time, because I must have been a bit stupid. But finally, I realized probably I have to do a hip operation. So then I went to a doctor. He did some X-rays, and he looked at them. And he said, "Well, I'm sorry, but you know, you have no chance. You just got to have an operation. There's no other possibility. The bones, you know, they're rubbing on each other. There's nothing between the bones, you know." So then I went to have these hip operations, and now I have no pain at all. It's like I'm reborn, you see. But because I was very slow to decide, it took me many months of pain before I finally made this decision. Now I'm fixed, absolutely no pain at all. So that's physical pain, yeah, physical pain. But then what about emotional pain? Yeah. So that's not very nice either. You know, it's not nice either. But again, this emotional pain is giving us some possibility to heal these old wounds, emotional wounds. Yeah. So if we look at pain in that way, we can see that pain actually is an important part of the healing process. You see. So I don't think we need to avoid kind of closed, blocked off parts of ourselves. You know, we can open the door. Okay, there'll be some pain, but it's never so much you can't manage. Actually, very few people can't manage. Anybody want to comment about pain?
Kashi?
This morning I felt stressed to get all the rooms finished. And every time when I get in the stress, I'm not kind to Raj. And I hear better in my voice how I react. But also, I also have to cry if I become too stressed. And I'm always fighting against the tears because I think, oh, I'm sitting in my drama again. And the more I fight to my tears, the bigger they become. Now,
Right.
I still find it so difficult not to. I don't want to become stressed, but I easily become stressed if things are if there is a time pressure.
Right.
But there is, yeah. Sometimes I think tears are also something to release inner tension, and that it is perhaps also natural. But there is a kind of, oh, it is, I shouldn't do it anymore. I should not go into it. But fighting
Right.
against is not working. I noticed.
Fighting against any kinds
Against
of
the tears, you know, I must be
yeah,
grown up.
but
not crying.
fighting against any feelings doesn't really work, you know.
No.
Just allow whatever to be there. You know, if you feel
Yeah.
angry, be angry, and if
Yeah.
you feel to cry, cry. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because anyway, it changes. You know,
Yeah.
it changes.
Yeah. Yes.
And you know, also you've mentioned now a couple of times, I think, that you know when you feel a time pressure, you stress yourself. Yeah. So
Yeah.
as this is something that keeps reoccurring, you can maybe investigate a bit about that.
Yes,
You know?
I must investigate it better than I do.
I mean, sometimes we need to investigate some of the things that make us cry, for example. You know? It just needs to be investigated. And for example, if I think about that lady who discovered in our community that she'd been sexually abused, you know, that then became one of her main topics, really, to deal with that abuse. And it's not so easy. It's not so comfortable. And I think then I would have to say that I think then our community is providing a very beautiful environment for such an investigation to be able to happen, because you've been sexually abused, something like that. Yeah, it's a lot of pain there, a lot of emotions there, and maybe it's been blocked for many years. So to bring all that out, having a loving environment with people who actually don't mind if you cry all day, and you know, encourage you to go there and investigate and express whatever is there, I would say that's an enormously beneficial environment. And of course, that's one of the reasons for our community. And is the reason for ashrams, and is the reason for monasteries, you know, because they provide an environment for doing the inner work. And probably it's not so easy to do that in the greater society. It's not impossible, of course, but there's some reason for an ashram or a monastery. Anybody else like to share? That kind of intense morning, there must be something to say.
So about this pain, there is. Sorry, my dogs. I have
It's okay. We don't mind those.
I had this experience with Eckhart Tolle and the pain body, if you know about it.
Yeah.
He said there is in all of us there is this pain body, and this pain body is part of our person, and this pain body wants to be fed by pain and by our attention to pain. And if we are in this witness where you are talking about Maharaj, then you can see the pain body and you can see this pain, but you don't be this pain. And you can see it, and you can see, oh, my pain body wants to be fed, and you can choose if you want to do it or if you don't want to do it, and only witness how it is there. It's very difficult, I know, because in my life there are some pain. What I feed it my pain body, but I can only talk for a little thing. When I am with my husband and we have our relation game, and then there came a point when he said something, and my pain body says, "Oh yes, I want to have pain now from this what he's saying." And when I'm in conscious, and when I'm aware of what is going in this moment, then I can decide it not to go into this pain, then but stay as the witnesser. And so this what Maharaj says, or what you are reading now, is exactly what is needed to diminish this pain body by the time. It will take time, but it is possible to be the witnesser and to be the conscious, and not to be the pain and to feed the pain body.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think what Maharaj is saying is that the unconscious becomes conscious, and
yes.
I mean, it's nice that Eckhart Tolle gives this image of a pain body, but actually you can just use the word pain. You know?
Yes.
The pain is in your body. I mean, if you want to make, the idea from his image is that we've got a kind of one layer is all the pain, but I don't think it's quite like that. So it's okay. I agree with what he's saying, but you don't really need a pain body image. You can just see that there is pain. And as you rightly say, just by being the witness of this pain and not trying to repress the pain, then in fact you start to heal whatever it is that's behind the pain, because it's not to heal the pain, but what is behind the pain that causes the pain. We need to heal what is behind, not the actual pain. The pain, like I was suggesting with the knee, the pain is useful because it gives us an idea that there is some issue, whatever it is. There is this issue of sexual abuse or whatever it is issue there. And the pain body or the pain is telling us, something is there.
Yes. For me, this pain body was a person. I saw a person who was hungry in my mind, and I said, "No, I don't want to feed you." It's my own thought. But this witness and this conscious is the way. And this question: to whom came this pain? To who sees it? Who is the seer of this pain? And then you have a gap between the pain and yourself, and then you can handle it a little bit better. But pain is a very overwhelming feeling, I know.
Yeah. There are some moments, and we were talking with Bruno last night for quite a long time, and at the moment in his life, a lot of pain has been triggered. It came from some current relationship breakdown, but this breakdown brought a lot of emotions up. It's like the clear water of Bruno's life suddenly got very, very muddied. And he suddenly discovered that, you know, there was a lot of old mud in a way that he hadn't really resolved. So like I was saying about the knee, it's not so bad that emotional pain happens, because actually in Bruno's case, it got so intense for him that he decided to come to Open Sky House. So actually, it's a bit like my hip operation, you know. The pain got so bad that in the end I had to go to the hospital, and Bruno's come to Open Sky House. I think it's a good choice, actually.
Yes. But there's I think there is a difference between body pain and psychological pain.
Psychic pain, yeah.
Yes, because I'm a migraine person, and there is this migraine, and you can nothing do about it. And my only thought about it is it there? It is not there, and I know how pain works, and that makes me mitfühlend. Oh, jetzt fehlt mir das Wort gerade. Passionate to other people. Compassion, genau, to other people when they have pain. When you never experience pain, body pain in your life, you can't have compassion for other people. They have pain, and it's a learning process. But also in your case, when you avoid an operation, there is perhaps something behind this pain. Yes, we have to look where this pain come from and experience what it wants to say to us. But psychological pain is often it runs by itself and gets more and more, and at one point you don't know where its original come from. It's his own life inside, and grows in our with our energy.
Right. But I mean, one thing I would say, I mean, you seem to be suggesting that this migraine that happens is somehow not really being caused by anything that might be there, which is being repressed, you know. I mean, maybe you should reconsider that. Because if you're getting a constant migraine, that would suggest, okay, maybe it's chemicals, but maybe the chemicals are being affected by something that's going on in your life, you know, that something in your life is causing some stress, which then causes the migraine. Yeah? And maybe you can look at what might be behind that. Is there a cause? You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a thought I must follow.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe another 5 or 10 minutes, as I started a bit later. Somebody else likes to.
Cornelia?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, Cornelius, yeah, go ahead.
Since I know I had a pain of to be alone, and I started in a work, and it goes by, but it comes always from time to time, and I think it's enough now. I'm nourish myself, but it's still some pain there. It's always coming. Yeah.
When you say pain, you mean like the pain of being alone,
Yes.
loneliness.
Yes.
You're suffering from loneliness.
Yeah.
Even though you're getting good at, you know, nourishing yourself. Yeah. Going to walk in the nature.
To be with people, sometimes it's good. It's very good, But I mean, I had this pain. My mother died when I was 2.5, and so it's never-ending story.
Right. So maybe you need to see that because your mother died when you were very young, you didn't get held. You know, physical, warm body and body contact didn't happen so much. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you had somebody else who did that.
No, but I
And
tried to give this myself. So
you try to hold yourself.
yeah.
Right, right.
And by meditate, I like to be alone as well. It's both. It's both. Also es ist eine Gratwanderung.
But for example, you know, okay, you feel the pain of being lonely, then you could investigate, you know, what is behind this feeling of loneliness. You like being sometimes alone, but you don't like it to become lonely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe, I mean, I don't want to say this is the reason, you know, but it may be that by giving yourself some massages from somebody who you like their touch, maybe this is actually a cure for your loneliness, you know, because your loneliness comes out of the lack of motherly warmth when you were a little girl because you lost your mother. I mean, for example, I don't know really.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried this too. Yeah.
And how was it? Did massage help?
Yeah, sometimes, yes.
Right, right. I mean, this is one of the impulses to go into a relationship, you know, because, okay, it's okay to have a 1 hour massage here or there, but to have somebody who lies in bed with you every night and puts his arms around you and you know.
Well, yes, but it's not this what I want, because it's never ending. You have to feed yourself, I think.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, this is of course the best conclusion, is to see that you are in fact love. Your essence is love.
Yes, the essence.
So when you can come to your essence, the essence is love. And when you're in your essence, you may harbor some ideas. Well, it would be nice to have a relationship with somebody and they would hold me and all that. But actually, if you're really in your essence, you're completely nourished because nothing is missing.
Yes, I know this too. And it goes for a month and then it comes all this back, this old feeling.
Yeah, well, be the witness to that old feeling and see what's there. You know, something is there. And probably it was kind of a strong thing to lose your mother when you were 2 years old, you know, so you can investigate that. Maybe you've already investigated it.
Yeah. I did it for years, yes. It's 50 years I'm doing that, to 60.
Right. Well, it has some value, but it's not the whole healing. Yeah, the whole healing that I can observe. I've been many years, 40 plus years, I've been involved in all this. And as far as I can see, the only way for true healing to happen is that you wake up, you become self-realized.
I try. Yeah.
So then when you come to see if you can come to see what I've just said is true, because not everybody would agree with me, of course, but if you come to see that that's maybe true, then what, you know, then maybe you make a priority for that in your life. And there are other things that at the moment might be a priority. I'm not saying in your case, but it might be the priority to have a relationship, for example, which is many people's priority. Maybe that's not the best priority. you know, and then you make a different priority. I mean, in our community, over I think about 16 years now, we've had about, I think, 120 people, 130 people actually live in the community, be a resident in the community. And but most of the time we're about 18, 20 people. So many people came and left, you see. And I would say there are two main reasons why people leave. Probably the strongest is that they come to some emotional pain and they don't want to go there. It's too painful to go there, or you know, they don't have a big enough priority to go there. So they just leave, and they leave in a kind of ego storm, something like an ego storm, and that creates a complete cutoff with the community. And so actually we've discovered that in that situation, we can't even try to talk to the person. You know, in the past, we would have a meeting together and try to talk, but when you're in this ego storm because of some fear of some ego pain, we discovered that the ego storm is so strong, there's no point in even talking to the people. They just have to leave. And that's very sad, because probably somebody who goes into this ego storm will never come back to the issue. They'll run for the rest of their life, probably. I don't really know, because I don't have contact with most of those people who leave, but that's my impression. That why would you come back to it if it was so painful and fearful and strong that you just ran away? So that's one reason why people have left our community, one strong reason. And the other reason is that they fall in love with somebody in our community. We call this a love bubble, you see. So they're drawn to our community because of what we were just talking about. They want to become self-realized. They want to really deal with the issues and so on. And then they come to our community. This is very authentic and beautiful. But then they discover a very nice woman or a very nice man in the community, and their priority changes because they start to develop a special connection to that person. So we've lost many people from falling in love and, you know, even having a baby and going off and living happily ever after, you see. But maybe it wasn't so happily ever after, I would guess, you see.
But Osho wrote in his book, most people are avoid to be alone. So
yeah,
it's nearly for everybody, this pain.
Yeah, well, most of the things we're talking about are for everybody, actually. Have you ever met anybody who's very content and very much with themselves and very nurtured and throwing off piles of love and good humor? And, you know, how often do you meet somebody like that? You know, pretty much never. Pretty much never. So all the things we're talking about are actually for pretty much everybody. I mean, in the society, people cover up their inner pain by becoming the president or becoming the boss of a big company or becoming rich, or, you know, I don't know, they become a famous pop singer or something. But, you know, so what, you know?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, a couple of minutes more and then we'll break for lunch. I think Santosh wanted to. Do you want to come through, Santosh?
Hi,
You've
can
got
you
a
hear me clear?
you've got a very nice wallpaper or paint job behind you.
Yeah, it's a paint job. Yeah, it's a nice story about that. I was at one time I was very depressed, and then I went to visit a friend, and he had this whole room like in colors of rainbows, different shape though, and it did something energetically to me that time. Like I could really feel the energy, and it kind of balanced me right back up, like in a few minutes. The effect diminished though with time.
So you came home and painted stripes on your wall too.
Yeah, I felt like colors have an effect, yeah, and
Yeah, yeah,
it feels good.
looks very good. Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Okay,
Anyway,
so
yeah, I wanted to share my insights on pain, and you kind of see that when we get in contact with pain, the tendency is to avoid it, like a subconscious tendency to run away or to put our awareness away from it. And I noticed that it's like the same when some pain from the subconscious emerges in some situations, our pain, or when we feel some pain vibrations from the environment or from other people. And I also noticed that if one notices it and goes into the pain or puts more awareness on the pain, in both situations, it helps to deal with the pain a lot faster. Yeah, and also to go on with our life a lot faster. It's not comfortable, but it seems to work that way. Also, as you said, that sometimes you just have to investigate more what's behind it. That's also I found that also true, because with some things, no matter how many times I got into it, it still kept emerging. And later on, with the help of somebody from the outside, I kind of got to the bottom of it.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I agree with what you're saying. Yeah. So, are you coming to visit us soon? We haven't seen you since a few months.
I would like to come as a volunteer in July, yeah, for a month.
Yeah.
And then I'm
Okay.
already thinking ahead, yeah. We will talk.
Okay.
We'll talk to Rada or to Indira on Tuesday if they're going to have time.
I mean, at the beginning of July, the first weekend in July, the 4th and 5th of July, we have one of our international Sangha meetings, which we had invited you to. I don't know when it was, in March, maybe, I can't remember now. We had the last meeting just before the government closed everything down, so it was quite good. I think it was just after that weekend that we couldn't have had the weekend. And the next one is in July, beginning of July. So if you plan to come for the whole of July as a volunteer, that you can join the meeting and then stay for some time. Yeah.
Sounds good.
And I don't quite know the dates, but in July, I think it's probably in the second half of July, I have a 2-week retreat in Tripelia in Ukraine, which is always very beautiful because it's always hot and you can go swimming in the lake, and yeah, it's a nice retreat and not so expensive.
I was more looking forward to the one that you're going to have in Spain.
Ah, okay, yeah. The
So
Spanish one is the kind of 5-star retreat. It's a bit more expensive, but we have a swimming pool in the garden. So, and we have a very beautiful, it's such an amazingly beautiful garden there. So, yeah, I think every year, it's going to be in September this year. And it's always very energetic because it's just beauty. There's amazing beauty. Yeah. We're very lucky to have that house. I mean, this year the house is closed basically. We have one Spanish guy living in the house as a kind of caretaker. But basically we can't do anything because we're not allowed to have any guests. And so the house is just sitting empty. So it's a bit tough situation at the moment.
Mm.
But I think Spain is beginning to open up again. So I'm sure by September, unless there's I mean, they start talking now about whatever they call it, a second wave of the virus. People are I mean, I know it goes on and on. But anyway, I hope in September we'll be able to have the retreat there. Yeah. So yes, coming July. Good.
Okay, thank you.
Are you still in contact with that nice lady from Estonia? Was it Estonia?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I kind of fell into a relationship with her. It was a
Right.
bit unexpected for me. Like I was saying in December retreat, I'm never getting a girlfriend again, and it's kind of just happened.
We noticed that the weekend we were having our meeting in March, you actually flew to Estonia. So you probably flew over our house that weekend. You know?
Could be.
So we noticed your priorities had changed because you
No,
were
not really. I mean, I didn't
well
plan to come.
in December and January. You kept repeating how you're not interested in the relationship, and then
Well, yeah, I mean, in priorities regarding spirituality and relationship, I'm also quite clear with this girl from Estonia about it. And
right.
I mean, I'm planning to visit her again before coming to Germany. And then after I go to Germany in August, I don't know, we'll see. Maybe she comes to visit also. But actually, after that, I'm all yours. Yeah.
You're all what?
I'm all yours, all for the community.
Well, I've heard that before, you know. So we will see what happens. Yeah. I mean, she was also, you know, I mean, this weekend, for example, she could have been part of this retreat, but she's not. Yeah, it's a little bit pity. She probably told you she had quite a good time with me in the retreat we did in Tiruvannamalai. That you brought her. Yeah, you met her in a coffee shop. You brought her to my meetings, and she stayed for a week or 10 days, I think. And now her priority seems to have shifted to you, not the Satsang meeting.
Yeah, well, but she says that she couldn't understand before how some people have the priority of enlightenment in their life, but that she came to that understanding in the retreat in Tiruvannamalai, and that she would also like to understand that again. And she starts to also see that it's important to carry on spiritual practice in everyday life because otherwise you forget. And she did, like when she came back to Estonia, she fell right back into it. And when I came to visit her, I also immediately noticed the big change from her vibration. Like in Tiruvannamalai, she was vibrating a lot more like a universal energy, and when I came to Estonia, she was very much in the personal energy. So I think it's also at some point like one learns that you can forget very easily, and that you have to work on it, not to forget also, especially if you're not part in such a community or something.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, as I say, she could have joined this weekend. She could have stayed home and come on the Zoom and, like you, maybe reconnected, you know, but she hasn't the same priority that you have, obviously. Yeah.
No, we'll see. I don't know.
Anyway,
I am prepared though. I mean, it was interesting before we got into a relationship. I was reading the Arunachala Shiva book from you, and I think that it was James Schwartz that writes in the book that it's nothing wrong to fall in love if you are ready to accept also that it's only temporarily, that it's going to end sooner or later. So I kind of like that very much.
There's nothing wrong with anything, you know. Everything is all right. So who is going to judge whether something is okay or not? You know, if it's happening in your life, then it must be okay. it's okay for you in that moment, you know. But
It
what
did
we've
bring a lot of.
what we've
Sorry,
noticed, what we noticed in our community over the years is these two big saboteurs, you know. One is when you come into the fear of the pain of meeting the ego issues, yeah, that's one big sabotage. Then people leave, they go away, they run away. And I can't really imagine why they would ever come back to look again if they've run away. So I doubt many of them are starting to work with another teacher, because probably it wasn't particularly about John David that they left. They left because of the pain of their issue. They want to avoid that. And then, as I say, the other big saboteur is people fall in love in our community. Maybe they even have a baby. So it's all right to have a baby and fall in love with somebody and run off. But as far as doing the spiritual work, probably that's not going to happen anymore. So
I can't.
I mean, if you carry on reading, if you carry on reading Arunachala Shiva at the end of near the end of the chapter on James Schwartz's life, I asked him, what are the qualifications for really coming to self-realization, right? What are the qualifications? What is the qualification? You see, and he said, and you can read it there, I think it's quite brilliant what he said, is that you don't want anything more from life, or from, I should say, maybe the society, from the society. So you don't want a better job, you don't want more money, and you don't want a girlfriend or boyfriend. You don't want anything. And there aren't many people that come to that, you know. The end of desire is not very common. You don't expect anything more from the outside, you see. So this is pretty tough qualification, actually.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, my batteries are running low.
Okay, so let's have lunch. Thank you very much. Thank you. So see you at 5 o'clock for our last meeting. So